The Mecklenburg County election debates are a service of WTVI, Mecklenburg County, and the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. The views and opinions expressed in these debates are those of the candidates and do not necessarily represent the views of WTVI, its management, Mecklenburg County, or the League of Women Voters.
PBS Charlotte and the League of Women Voters present Election Debate 2016.
Hello, I'm Jason Terzis with PBS Charlotte. Welcome to the 2016 general election debate sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. During the next 15 minutes, you will hear from the two candidates in the NC Court District race for District 26. Questions from today's debate have been provided by the League of Women Voters. I will call on candidates in random order, and you'll each have 30 seconds or 1 minute to respond. If you'd like to challenge an opponent, raise your yellow challenge card, and you will then have 30 seconds to respond. Each candidate has 3 challenges during this debate, and you will be allowed to make a 30-second closing statement. Now let's meet 2 of the candidates for NC District Court Judge for District 26. First, we have David Strickland, and to my left is Ben Thalheimer. So let's begin. Question number 1. What is your experience in the areas of criminal law, family law, and complex civil litigation? You'll have 60 seconds to answer this question. And Mr. Thalheimer, let's begin with you.
Well, most of my experience has been in family law. In addition to being in private practice now, where I concentrate on family law, I also served 5 years as a judge in district court, almost exclusively in family court, occasionally in criminal law. In addition to being that, prior to that time, I had 5 years as a civil magistrate, steeped in civil litigation. I was Judge Judy of Mecklenburg County. I heard probably upwards of 40,000 civil cases in that regard. So I've dealt with those matters before that, and before that I was a criminal magistrate in dealing with matters of setting bonds, determining probable cause. So I've been across the board on both criminal matters, steeped in civil matters in small claims court, and concentrated in family court matters, both as a district court judge and in private practice.
Mr. Strickland.
First, I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate for us and give us an opportunity to speak to the public this morning. As far as my legal career is concerned, I moved here in 2002, where I began my work as a public defender, where I handled criminal matters in the Public Defender's Office. I have my own law firm from 2005 to 2012, where I handled a variety of matters, which included criminal court, along with some civil matters and representing some small businesses. I was elected in 2012, and I've been proudly serving on the bench for the past 4 years. During that time, I have presided over matters in district court and criminal court. I was a family judge for approximately 2 years, my first 2 years on the bench, handling matters involving custody, equitable distribution, child support, and these last 2 years I have been the lead juvenile judge here in Mecklenburg County.
Next question. What forms of voluntary, professional, and community service have you been involved with in the past, and what forms are you currently involved in? 30 seconds for this one. Mr. Strickland, we'll begin with you.
Right now, the governor appointed me on the Governor's Crime Commission. Specifically, I'm on the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee, where I go to Raleigh about once a quarter to work on matters dealing with our youth here in the state of North Carolina and Mecklenburg County. I also volunteer with our Truancy Court. It's a program at local elementary schools around CMS, and I have worked at Mary Oaks Elementary School and Westerly Hills Elementary School. In addition, I'm a proud graduate of Wake Forest University, and Wake Forest has some programs here in Mecklenburg County that I work with as well.
Mr. Thalheimer.
Yes, as I said, my passion is dealing with children in crises and families in crises, and to that end, I've done a lot of work pro bono and volunteering for victims of domestic violence. In fact, I've been recognized by United Family Services for being their Volunteer of the Year. In addition to doing the work for pro bono on a more micro basis, on a macro basis, I have been appointed by the governor to serve on a subcommittee on the State Board of Women's Commission on their subcommittee against domestic violence. In addition to that, I'm an active member in the North Mecklenburg Rotary Club, where we do a lot of service projects. Additionally, I also served in truancy court when I was on the bench, and I've also been involved in other activities dealing with families in crises such as homelessness. I've done Habitat for Humanities and worked at the shelter.
Next question. The judicial system is currently addressing implicit bias in the juvenile justice system. What practices or procedures are needed to address this issue throughout the court system? You have 60 seconds for this one. Mr. Thalheimer, we'll start with you.
Well, the court has recognized this problem for some time, and they have initiated programs of education on implicit bias. I think that is a critical issue. Not only being educated on that, but taking personal inventory on where your bias is. I think it's important for people to realize it does exist. What the issue is what do you do once you become aware of these biases? And the education that the courts have initiated has gone a long way towards recognizing that and helping us deal with those biases. And we'll continue those programs. We'll continue to make inventory on that. We'll continue to look at the statistics to see if we're having any aggregations in that.
Mr. Strickland?
Piggybacking on what Mr. Thalheimer said, he's correct. First, it begins with education, and all of our judges take a program or a class related to implicit bias, and it does exist. And the next step is, what do we do about it? And in my courtroom, I welcome people to come to court, see what we do on a daily basis, either on the fourth floor for criminal court or the 8th floor for juvenile and criminal court. And when you see it, you call it out. Whether you're working with families, Department of Social Services, our guardian ad litem's office, any type of family situation, we call out when we see any type of bias issues, and we discuss it. The more you talk about it, the more people can recognize it, and then we can deal with that particular issue. Again, I would encourage you, the public, to come to court to watch us work and see how we handle those matters.
Next question. District court judges in Mecklenburg County handle an average of 1,000 cases a day, according to the court administrator. Have the recent budget cuts impacted your ability to administer justice? 30 seconds for this one. Mr. Strickland.
Well, I'm not sure about how the budget cuts work. All I can do is worry about myself, which is I go to my courtroom every day on time, and we get through our dockets. If you talk to other people in the community, whether it be attorneys, litigants, social workers, guardian ad litem volunteers, I think they would tell you that I run a tight ship with my courtroom as far as being very efficient with my time and making sure that we get matters heard so that families can be reunified here in Mecklenburg County.
Mr. Thalheimer.
The real impact that cuts have had is not on what you hear in the courtroom so much as the backlogs that continue to be a problem. And those are problems particularly for families in crises who want immediate attention in their emergency situations. So when I was on the bench, I routinely would hear cases at 8:30 before it starts, normally at 9 o'clock, and seldom had a lunch because working through those times, because people are in crises and need immediate needs. It is a real problem.
Next question. North Carolina is the only state that sets the age of adulthood in criminal court at 16. Should the age be raised to 18? What impact would this have on administering juvenile justice? 30 seconds for this one. Mr. Thalheimer.
Yes, I'm in agreement with raising that. Obviously require additional resources at the district court level. But it's important to understand when it comes to people of that age, reports have shown that the mind hasn't matured that much. They're not making rational decisions on biological reasons. And there's also a disproportionate impact a criminal record has on a person of a young age who doesn't have a resume to fall back on. And so there can be a major deterrent down the road, much more disproportionate to the particular crime they're charged with.
Mr. Strickland.
And I wish I had more than 30 seconds to answer this question, because absolutely, yes, we need to raise the age to 18 as 48 other states have. And what I spoke about most recently is I think the age will be changed and the law will change, but we need resources. We need resources for the courtroom. We need resources as far as programs in our community where we can send our young people to, for them to be successful and be leaders in our community. But the answer to the question is yes, we do need to raise the age.
Next question. What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice? And we'll have 60 seconds for this one. Mr. Strickland.
The biggest issue that I see is financial concerns. It's very difficult. When I was a family court judge for 2 years, I would give you an example is we have individuals, a mother and a father would come in with low income and they're not able to afford an attorney. And they are making arguments to me as to where that an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old child should live. And it's very difficult sometimes to get the evidence that you need to enter an order that's in the best interest of a child. And when you enter custody orders for an 8 and 10-year-old, that has a long-lasting effect on their lives. That impacts them for the rest of their life. And any type of pro bono work that attorneys can do to provide additional resources for families in our family courts can be beneficial for not only the children, but it allows the court to make a more educated opinion.
Mr. Thalheimer.
I would agree with what Judge Strickland says, that these people who can't afford attorneys are called pro se litigants, and they're becoming more and more common. By some accounts, they're as much as 60% of the people in court. So it's important to understand and be able to help these people but not be biased, and that's where I think I have a particular knowledge and expertise. I mentioned that I was a judge in small claims court with predominantly people without attorneys. So I have that expertise in dealing with a lot of people who didn't have lawyers. In addition, I was responsible for developing, responsible for developing the protocol in Mecklenburg County for how to deal with pro se litigants. And I've taught judges throughout the state on how to deal with pro se litigants.
Mr. Strickland would like to challenge.
Yes, what I would encourage the voters to do is look at there's a judicial survey that came out that provides some insight for the public. You can go to my website, reelectdavidstricklandjudge.com, to look at that survey. I was ranked the #1 judge in Mecklenburg County overall. #1 specifically also as it relates to impartiality and integrity. I think if you would compare my scores to my opponent, you would note that I did I had better marks than my opponent. Just like our kids, we get report cards as well. So I encourage you to look at that judicial survey.
If I could.
And we'd like to challenge here.
Yeah, I respond to that. I think the biggest report card was coming when I was initially appointed to the bench, and that included a vote by all the members of the Mecklenburg County Bar to fill a vacancy in the district court at that time. I was selected, my name was selected to go to the governor for an appointment at the time. It wasn't an election, and I was appointed at that time by Governor Easley to serve in that vacancy, and then I went on to serve an additional term as well as that appointment.
Next question. Should the court system provide a place where the public can easily access searchable case results and sentencing decisions? 30 seconds for this one. Mr. Thalheimer, we'll begin with you.
Well, as I've been asked this before, and I think the search has to be a little broader than that. It's not just the results, but actually looking at the cases and looking at the findings. It's not just in family court, it's not just guilty or innocent. It's what plan have you implemented, what findings you have made. So you need to have something more than just statistics, an opportunity to just actually look at the findings in the cases. And that leads on to a big important thing that we need in court. We need better technology, and particularly when it comes to being able to access records.
Mr. Strickland?
As your lead juvenile judge, first as it relates to juvenile court, those matters are confidential. So the general public are not entitled to those documents or court files because we want to protect our children. But for matters for when you're 18 or older, yes, we need better technology. And then, of course, that goes back to the question you raised earlier, Jason, in regards to funding from our state legislature.
Okay. Closing statements. You'll each have 30 seconds. Mr. Strickland.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for putting on this event. Again, my name is David Strickland. I am your lead juvenile court judge. I work every day on reunifying families and making sure that our communities are safe and ensuring that our young people are becoming leaders in our community, in our schools. I'm very proud to be ranked the #1 judge in Mecklenburg County. Overall, I'm also proud to be ranked the #1 judge with respect to integrity and impartiality. You can know that you will get a fair hearing or a fair trial when you come to my courtroom. Again, my name is David Strickland, and I ask for your vote on Election Day.
Mr. Thalheimer.
Yes, my name is Ben Thalheimer, and my passion is children, and my passion is helping families in crises. Both by my record and my volunteer efforts, you see I put my passion to practice. I have more experience, 30 years practicing law, 5 years as a family court judges. We need more stability in family court. 5 years as a judge in small claims court, and practical experience, 10 years of working in business before even going to law school. All in all, with that practical experience, I ask for your vote.
Well, once again, our thanks to David Strickland and Ben Thalheimer, who are running in the NC District Court Judge race for District 26. Gentlemen, thank you each for participating today. For more information about the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg, go to goleaguego.org. And for more information about the candidates, you can go to vote411.org. A reminder for Mecklenburg County voters, early voting begins on Thursday, October 20th. The general election is Tuesday, November 8th. Election day polls will be open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'm Jason Terzis. Thank you for watching PBS Charlotte.